Welcome back, you guys. Tonight we're going to be working on a Shield 9mm. Pretty interesting salvage that we're going to be doing here today. Customer reached out to me. They let me know that they wanted to have a Shield package done, but there was some damage on the slide. They're not kidding. It looks like somebody tried to drill a hole through the front zone here, make their own port. Then they also went through the process of coloring it. I don't know whether the customer did this or maybe they received it this way. Sometimes we all buy firearms secondhand that are discounted. But nonetheless, we're going to fix this. Now, we've all been down this path before with stippling, and some of us have done this with slides where we think we have the knowledge, the tools, the know-how to do it ourselves. We kind of get halfway through it and we decide, wow, this really wasn't a good idea. The same thing happens to me sometimes. We take projects in, sometimes we go down the path of doing something that we haven't done before, and I really say to myself, wow, this really wasn't a good idea. So even though these are on two different levels, it's easy to fall into temptation of trying something that maybe you haven't done before, and as you get halfway through it, you're kind of like, wow, that was obviously not a good idea. So in this particular case, the customer kind of knew when to step back and say, what can we do? Is it salvageable? What are my options? We ended up going with the standard package that we do sell on the webpage, which is the single top port, the dual side windows. Of course, we'll go through the process of cleaning the slide, Cerakoting the slide to kind of address that issue with the coating and get it back to what would be a factory look. But this is pretty common. I happen to see this quite often where people actually will use like a spray paint inside outside of the slide and kind of just go to town, and in the end we have functionality issues and we have cosmetic issues. Not only will we be working on the slide, we're also going to be working on the barrel. The barrel itself, we're going to end up cleaning this off, going through the process of polishing this as well to kind of address this, get this back to what would be our factory look. And overall, I'm really excited about the build. I always like taking something that is pretty rough and turning it back into something that's pretty beautiful in the end. So I'm pretty pleased about doing the work and seeing exactly how this comes out in the end up here in the front zone, because I'm not sure whether we're going to hide all of that or we're going to have some of that left over. Right now it really kind of just depends on where this hole kind of falls in placement of the pattern, and then if we need to alter the pattern or if we can alter the pattern. We also have a nick right here. You can kind of see that where it looks like maybe it was hit with like a Dremel, maybe a hacksaw, something that has a round edge on it. And we're going to also try to address that before we do the coloring, so that way we can kind of cosmetically blend that as well. So as you can see, we did not clear off all of the damaged area. We still have a significant portion up here towards the front where the dovetail is. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to finish off this top pocket here. So I'm actually going to run a chamfer on where we already cut, and then I'm going to kind of cheat the pattern over to the left some and kind of duplicate it over top of itself. So it's almost going to be like a double stamp. So basically we ran the pattern over here. We're going to shift it this way. We're going to run the pattern over here. So that way when we run our chamfer over here and we run our chamfer over here, we should be aligned on our axis, our x-axis from left to right here, so that way we don't have any issues where the two patterns overlap. It should be somewhat of a seamless transition from left to right. That's also going to remove most of this damaged area. I do believe on the back zone here, the cut is a little bit outside of where we're going to be making this pass. However, I do believe that the chamfer should knock down the top edge, so it should look pretty seamless on the top side, but I do believe that in the internal wall, in the inside, in the front zone, I do think that we're gonna actually have a little bit of damage still left over, but we're gonna see what that comes out looking like. I'm gonna make a couple changes here and on how to get this thing set up and shift it over, and we'll see what we come up with. All right, guys, let's take a look and see exactly how this came out in the end. Overall, I am very pleased with just the change from where we started to where we are now. I'm going to be quite honest, it was pretty rough at the beginning. I think you guys grasped that. You kind of are on the same line as me, and we're all on that same page, is that it really needed the overhaul. It really needed some sort of a facelift to get back to, you know, something presentable, something functional, and something that overall can go back into the daily rotation of a daily carry. And I think we really achieved that. So let's kind of discuss it as a whole. We do have this assembled right now. We ended up polishing the barrel. We can pull this spring out here. We can take a look at this barrel. We'll start with the barrel work and we'll kind of work our way backwards. So the idea was that the barrel had a lot of marks on it. A lot of what we had seen from the picture wasn't just external cosmetic blemishes. I mean, some of these, it almost looks like maybe the barrel was sitting in water this way, because I'm seeing some like a ring here, and then I see a ring here that has almost like etched itself into the metal itself. I did go through the process and do like a 2000 grit sand on it to kind of really remove the outside surface of it, to then get down into what would be more of the pore areas when we did the polish work. I'm really pleased with the way it came out. Overall, I think it's still usable and definitely still doable. It had some dents and dings, so I'm not 100% sure if that was just from some sort of you know, misfiring or failure to ejects, or if maybe the barrel, you know, was taken out and hit the ground a couple times. I just 100% don't know. It's pure speculation as to how it gets into this condition, but what I do know is that overall I'm really pleased with the overall outcome visually of what we have now versus you know, versus where we started. So definitely a big change there. The slide itself wasn't quite as challenging as I had anticipated. We did see that we made a change midway through. We did basically the cut here, and then as we kind of discussed, we moved it over and shifted it and did the cut here, extending that chamfer on the top. You know, normally this pocket is a little bit bigger than what we would typically run as far as the standard pattern goes that you can purchase off the webpage. However, I think it was one of those things that was kind of needed in order to really dress it up and make some corrections on it. Overall, the only thing that you can really see left here is there's definitely some drill marks on the right hand side. The chamfer does blend some of that, but overall they are still there. We are still getting a little bit of that there. We do have a cut mark here that was done. I sanded it down and tried to blend that the best I could without making it kind of like a divot. I really didn't want to make like a spot that seemed like it was like dinged. I kind of thought, nah, let's just leave it where the mark is, instead of trying to blend this further inward, where I just didn't know if we were going to lose a lot of that contour and visually what it was going to look like once it had been Cerakoted. So sometimes you just can't fix everything. The sides look good, nice and clean, sandblasted. Everything was then prepped, of course. Now this was a little bit more challenging because we took the clip off. I sandblasted all that. We ended up going back to black on that, which I think was appropriate. But it ended up having several layers of coating inside and outside on the wear zone. So a lot of where you see, like in this corner here, it had to be sandblasted and sandblasted and sandblasted in order to actually peel all that off and get down to the raw, because that's what we wanted for putting the black Cerakote on it. This is graphite black and this is burnt bronze. I'm really pleased with the way that it did come out. I think visibly it makes sense. Extractor, iron sights, more than likely there's probably a trigger or possibly a frame that's black. So I think we are going to still see a lot of that black on what would be burnt bronze overall. So very pleased with that. Guys, of course we're going to add some pictures to this to kind of give you a better visual of like up in the inside here, you know, kind of just show you really what was left over as far as damage. But I'm really pleased with, you know, kind of where we started to where we are now. I mean, it was rough. I mean, you guys could tell that. And I tell you guys that, you know, as this channel kind of unfolds and as this business grows, it's not always about running the same thing. It's not always about doing some really advanced stuff. Sometimes it's just about fixing something that we already own, or visually making a change to something that we already own because we're after something else. So it's not everything has to be this like super extravagantly large, complex build, and it's got to be the best of the best and no one else has it. Some of us just aren't after that, and quite honestly, some of them, sometimes that doesn't make sense. Especially if it's going to be something like an everyday carry gun, or if it's something going to be like a, you know, that maybe you want to take to the range every once in a while and just dress it up and dial it up and correct it a little bit more. So there's different reasons for what we all do and why we do what we do. So, and with that being said, we're kind of offer all of that. You know, there's a lot of packages that are on the webpage. This is one of the packages that's on the webpage. It's somewhat pretty affordable. The coloring and the front hole and the side hole I think runs right around like 220 or 210, somewhere in that neighborhood. And you know, the turnaround time right now is pretty low. It's, you know, you're usually going to be in that 2 to 3 week turnaround time. That's what I tell most of my customers, and usually they get it back before then. And of course, there's extra services that can always be applied, like different packages, Cobra nose, obviously barrel polishing and laser fluting, optic cuts. So we have the ability to kind of start with what would be a baseline package from the ground and work our way all the way up to what is your custom build. Guys, if you haven't been following us over on Instagram or Facebook, do so. If you haven't been following us on YouTube, I would recommend that you do that. If this happens to be your first video that you've ever seen of ours, go back and watch some of our other ones. And welcome to NC Engravers.